This is Android Basics, in which we bring you up to date on the things that you should know to use your Android phone.
Now we're going to turn to look back at the old year, which is almost at the end of its life, almost on its way out, and we're just going to cover off a few different things. I'm going to ask Warren if he wants to open up by talking about some of the telephones that were released and that we either did or didn't like.
I can't believe that 2023 is almost behind us, guys. And I think it was behind the scenes. Sally and we got to talking about how, we feel whenever the new year is over and how we particularly feel sad because the new year is over and all of that. It gets to me every single time that we jump over to the new year and all of that. And I'm sitting here thinking, oh, that's going to happen again. And I'm going to be feeling sad like I lost a friend and all of that. But looking back on 2023, we're basically reflecting on some of those things that happened. We had a lot of happenings back in 2023, and particularly the phones. And this is one of the reasons why, Android absolutely rocks, because you have so many different phones. And I kind of feel sorry for you guys on the other aisle, coming from wherever you're at. You just have that one single manufacturer, but it's not the same thing here on Android. And that's what we're mighty proud about, because over the year, you're bound to have, literally every single month, there's a new phone coming out from someone else. I'm not even talking about the Chinese guys here, but I am so thankful that we have that on Android. And so starting back in 2023, looking at the winter time, OnePlus came out with the OnePlus 11, trying to steal Samsung's thunder with the OnePlus 11 with the latest Edge Gen 2 Plus. And then, of course, we have the Galaxy S23 that follows as well. And so those are our winter phones that came out in the winter of 2023. And then moving on to springtime. Springtime was a very busy time. Samsung, of course, entered it with the Galaxy A54, which in my never to be humble opinion, probably one of the best mid-range phones of 2023. Of course, we have the Pixel 7a, which is also there. And so those two, go head to head. And so there's a little bit of a change with the A54 because unlike the previous iteration of the A53, the A54 was a little bit different, glass back and all of that, making it departing from that plastic, iteration that the A series are known for. Then, of course, we're folding still, and we have the Pixel Fold. It's something that is just, we've been talking about for a while, and people have been talking about rumors and all of that. Google may bring a Pixel Fold, and finally Google brought that Pixel Fold. It was plagued with maybe like software problems and all of that, but they kind of tried to fix those things, but maybe a tad too late. People have moved on. Then Moto Razr Plus or Moto Razr H Plus was another thing. We're talking about June here now. We got that from Motorola, the Razr H Plus, and then we have the Razr Plus, which is arguably, I would say, probably the best true clamshell flip phone with the full cover display, and all of that coming from Motorola. And then, we won't forget the Zenfone 10 Plus. For those of you that like smaller phones, I think that's it. That's where it really hits because, Asus knows that people like the smaller phones. Not everyone like me who likes bigger phones. A lot of people want that small phone. And so, John has the unboxing of it, but it's such a great phone. I'm glad we finally got something like that we could talk about on our podcast. It's our very first from Asus, and I'm glad John got that. It's a awesome phone. So listen to John's unboxing and then maybe the review coming on later on sometime in the new year. But so that's what we got for springtime. And now we're moving on to the summertime now, and we're talking about the Christmas tree. You guys remember the Christmas tree? We refer to the Nothing Guys phones as the Christmas tree phone. And so this is the Nothing Phone 2. I actually did an unboxing and a little bit of a review of the Nothing Phone 2 earlier this year, or, summer, or whenever that was. And then, of course, we will not forget the next Samsung Unpacked. Samsung took the stage, and they, of course, showed us all the Z Flip 5 and the Z Fold. Those were the phones that Samsung gave us in that summer of 2023. Moving to the fall, and here in the fall, of course, the highlight or the headliner here is, of course, the Pixel event, the Google event, and where we saw the Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro. And then, as if it's not enough, OnePlus surprised us, and this time with the OnePlus Open. And then finally, Motorola threw in another Razr phone there just to make it fair to close out the year. It's been out like in other places around the world, but finally it came to the US. And so basically those would be the phones that came out. I mean, the main phones, the big ones, in other words. I mean, there was Sony in there, but frankly, maybe Ed will talk about Sony. I don't know. Sony, they need to wake up. They've been at the wheels for a while now, but find a way to bring in your stuff here in the US, and probably it'll make a little bit of sense. But for me, those are the phones that came out for last year. They're all exciting phones. And so we're thankful that we have choices all the time here in Android land. If you don't like a particular thing, you have another one to choose from. That's what we got here in 2023, which continues the tradition of the Android phones.
So on December 11th, OnePlus surprised us with the OnePlus 12. The base variant has all the normal storage variants, but the top one will make Warren very happy because of the 1 TB storage, the 24 GB of RAM, and it has OxygenOS 14 or ColorOS 14, and it has lots of other specifications like the cameras are all 4K and all those things. It comes with a very big Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, so that is very good. The 5400 mAh battery and all those things. So OnePlus OnePlus phones are improving, but the only one of the mistakes that they have done, they have partnered with the ColorOS. So that was very big mistake. If they were having OxygenOS, I would have bought the phone.
And that OxygenOS 14, is that Android 14 or Android 13? Because I know with MIUI, the version numbers are one out.
No,
so
it's Android 14.
It is 14, is it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
14.
Yeah. Because MIUI 14 equates to Android 13. Which
Yeah, it's all on MIUI.
Yeah.
MIUI, some phones are having Android 13. Those are not supporting Android 14. They only get the
Same here.
MIUI. Yeah, they only get the MIUI updates, not the Android updates.
Yeah.
So the Android 14 will be with HyperOS.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Sony did release their two main phones, the 1 series and the 5 series. Excellent hardware again. I wasn't tempted this year by the price, but they are nice phones, but obviously expensive. And I think one of the key things, as we touched on, hopefully this will prove to be a game changer in 2024, is the 7 years of software updates offered by the Pixel 8 series, throwing down the gauntlet to Samsung. Perhaps we'll see what they do with the S24, having been ahead of Google for a while in terms of years of OS updates. Google have obviously reclaimed that crown, so hopefully that will drive other manufacturers onto bigger and better things as they release their phones in 2024. Time will tell.
Can we also maybe talk about the affordable phones? Because the technology is evolving and they're also getting better in terms of quality. Because they're mostly using the MediaTek processors, and those new MediaTek processors are able to get software updates, and they are much better in terms of camera and storage and battery for sure. So, not maybe in the US, but especially in the Europe, Asia, and Africa, there are some other brands like, as you said, Xiaomi, Poco, Tecno, Infinix. Those phones are getting even better. And I cannot believe this is getting really nice. And you can get a really decent device with less money, especially if you're a student, if you cannot afford a flagship phone. Those phones that you get, it's also going to be really nice and also at least going to get 2 years of software. But if you get, of course, one of the best phones from those manufacturers.
Yeah, as you say, getting better all the time and more choice, which can only be a good thing.
But one of the issues with this phone, the Realme and other brands in 2023, not very applicable to us, but it's an issue anyway. The software updates, one of the software updates just came, and there were a lot of green tint issue with the screen. There was some voltage problem, but then they acknowledged it, and they then gave everyone a lifetime screen replacement service. So that is, they have done very nice thing, but the green tint has caused some inconvenience to the people.
Now, speaking of Realme is one of the most sold phones manufacturers in India, isn't it? I mean, it's one of the most in the top.
Yeah,
And also Infinix.
Infinix, they make phones and they are sold, but not as top as Realme. Realme has good phones.
I think what I know is Realme is the number one in India and Infinix in Pakistan.
Yeah, that can be. And
Yeah,
also
yeah, that's it.
these phones, they come with a lot of bloatware. So that has to be reduced a little, because some of the phones they are reducing now, but they come with a lot of bloatware that gives ads and all. So that is another problem.
I
But
think
it's
that the
yeah.
focus of Infinix and Techno, primarily Africa, for example, and I know that a few years ago, maybe a couple of years or 3 years ago, one of them or both were very notorious for putting malware in there, and they had to be called out. I hope that they fix that,
Yeah, I
or
think
else,
Techno.
Yeah.
it's no bueno.
So that's the thing. Tecno was one of the first manufacturers to give their users Android 14 with their Camon 20 5G Pro device. It was really amazing. I couldn't believe it. Like even before Samsung did.
And going back to
That's
what Austin said earlier about the OnePlus 12, I think they've kind of set the record here, set the stage here, because the others will have to follow. And this is what I like about Android. Someone comes in and does something wild, like like what OnePlus is doing. 24 gigs of RAM. You want to follow, you either follow or stay behind. And I'm so excited about that, because just imagine you have this powerhouse of a phone with 24 gigs of RAM. I mean, it's even better than a lot of computers out there. It's just unbelievable. So I hope that, a lot of other manufacturers wake up and give us 24 gigs of RAM. I wouldn't mind having a 1 TB and 24 gigs of RAM, just ample power. I love the sound of it.
But do you really need it? Well, the point is, okay, they will say that we have a lot of RAM and we are like above everyone in the competition. However, the thing is that people don't really need this. So according to a testing that was made, I think by Android Authority a while ago, they just realized that 12 gigs is also more than enough. So I think it is just going um, like they could just make something else, something that people will really need and will really use, or they can just put the price down and don't use this 24 gigs of RAM, which is not usable anyway.
we've heard this story all the time. Oh, we don't need that many much storage. We don't need this many gigs of RAM. I mean, frankly, if we were to go by that, we'll be stuck at 4 gigs or whatever. So I don't see any reason not to have gigs, keeping the thing rock solid and all of that. So it's better to have more than to have less. So I don't care whether we have 24 or 32 gigs of RAM. I know it's there. So it's the same thing.
but
128 gigs is enough. Nonsense.
look, the storage is a different story because you can just put whatever you want on the phone because the storage is becoming bigger, which is not a problem. However, when you are talking about RAM and you are letting people pay for this, and actually they will not need it, this is the point.
Yeah, but Karen, the truth is that the price is still the same as the one with the less RAM. So would you rather have less RAM and pay the same money or have more RAM and pay the same money? That's the
It's the
question.
same price, actually. Yeah, of course, you will be
Yeah.
going
I
with
think
the
I would rather have let's say there was a version with 16 gigabytes of RAM instead of 24, but then you had 2 gigabytes of storage instead of 2 terabytes instead of 1 terabyte for the same price. I would choose more storage over RAM because you could theoretically eventually use that storage someday, whereas the RAM you might not ever use it.
You might not ever use the storage either. I mean, I think what it allows as well is for use of phones to evolve. So, our phones computer replacements at the minute, possibly not. But if you've got a phone with 24 gigs of RAM, you could use that to do some serious video editing or desktop publishing, couldn't you?
And with all the AI that everybody is now talking about, the rage is all about the AI, and we want everything to be computed on our phones and all of that. You need all that RAM. So for me, the more storage, the more RAM, even if you don't use it, it is there. I know that is there, and I'm not going to be lagging or whatever. And believe it or not, when you use a phone that doesn't have enough RAM, you can see the difference, no questions asked.
But personally, I think 640k is enough for everybody. He said that.
Yeah. I mean, if you have this 24, even 32 gigs of RAM, even that app crashes, it doesn't matter what amount of RAM you have, it's gonna still get crashed.
But that's an app crashing issue, isn't it? That's kind of a different thing.
Still,
That's
even
always
those
crash.
those popular apps get crashed. So you use
Yeah.
only apps on your phone. I mean, yeah, if the app crashes, you're gonna still get complaint. Oh, this app is crashing on my phone. What phone do you have? This one with 32 gigs of RAM. Oh, it's crashing though.
But not all crashes are memory issues, are they? Apps crash for
Yeah,
certain
but-
reasons.
Yeah,
Crashes
some are
are just
development issues.
apps
Yeah.
that will crash, and it has
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
to do with RAM. But you have people that believe I need to be clearing out my apps, from the recent whatever, because they're afraid of memory and all of that. That fixes all of that. But in reality, all I'm saying is that you have that choice. You don't have to get a 24 gigs. OnePlus gives you other variants of the RAM. If you think 24 is too much for you, don't get it. Simple. But I just love the fact that, they're blazing the trail. And, it used to be that they were the ones that gave us a 12 and everyone else was languishing behind. Look at where we are. Everyone now is jumping on the bandwagon of that 12 gigs of RAM. So I say blaze on OnePlus. I love it.
And OnePlus also set another record. There is 100-watt wired charging. That is okay. I think the fastest is 200 or 240 watt. But they also set the record for 50-watt wireless charging. I don't think there is any faster wireless charging than that.
I don't believe there's any like what they have. But so, these are the things that sometimes we overlook. But I'm glad we have the OnePlus out there. They're the first in so many areas. It's just that sometimes we don't give them enough credit. And it's because the availability sometimes is not as ubiquitous as what we have with other devices. And I'm talking especially here from the US viewpoint. I mean,
Yeah,
it's only the T-Mobile that has them. And it's just I wish they could get to the other carriers as well.
One of the point regarding the Chinese phones, one last point is all the technicians or the technical review YouTubers in India, they say that phones are becoming very boring, especially Chinese, because they'll launch a new phone every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, and have like the same, everything same, just one or two new updates and a new phone comes. So it's getting the situation in India at least is getting really boring.
Yeah, the thing is, they release those phones in different markets, so that's why they have different variants of those phones. I mean, here we get Poco, and it doesn't have all of the Poco that's been released, but in some parts of the world, you see all those variants available in those places. So it's all the market strategy. This is their strategy, so they want to be spreading with lots of different models in different parts of the world.
Yeah. Well, Samsung's done that for years.
But Samsung is getting less. I mean, they don't have
Yeah,
much
it
phones
is.
these days. And I
Yeah,
think
they used
that's
to have a
pretty
lot
good.
more.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they more focused on the software, and they are getting the hard work pays off. That's what we say.
You still have your 30 series, don't you? Your 50s. Some of the lower ends are still coming out, but less than they were perhaps.
Yeah, sure.
They've junked to the J series, J for junk, which is good.
Yeah.
A
A is gone, but now we have M and F. So F is in
Yeah.
India, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, A and S though, the ones, aren't they?
Yeah.
But before we move on to Austin, who's going to talk about AI, we might want to talk about Android software a little bit, because this year was not a happy year, was it, Warren, for the Android 14 release? It had a very difficult birth, didn't it? Lots of labor pains on this one.
You could call this year a horrible year, Ed. I can't even find a better way of qualifying what this year was for Android 14. I think that one thing I could liken it to would be the Windows Millennium or Windows 8 terrible stuff. But everything got turned upside down. You guys remember even the developer preview was actually better than a lot of the betas that we have. And then to keep messing it up, remember we were saying, hey, Google said, oh, July was the last beta. But did we get two more, Austin? You remember? I just can't believe. And then to top it all is the fact that the QPR program came out before the final stable release of Android 14. That's how bad it was, folks. So this year it's just been just awful. I hope that Android 15 would not give us a repeat of Android 14. I think, in my never to be humble opinion, Android 14 experience was probably the worst ever. Not even Honeycomb was that bad.
And I remember a few months before it came out, we were having a debate. Will it be August? Will it be September? And I think Austin got it right, didn't he, when he said it would be coinciding with the release of the Pixel 8 series in October, which seemed like a long shot at the time, but proved to be accurate. Because as Warren said, there were more betas to come.
And I tell you, I'm not going to, place another bet on Google and Android anymore because you never can tell what they'll do, because this just was bad. I just hope this was just a fluke and it's not something that's going to repeat itself. But other than that, it was just bad. I mean, let's be honest. And we still have problems with it. Some people still have problems with Android 14. I mean, it's now better than what it was. But gosh, it was such a roller coaster with Android 14. The beta phases and all of that. It just was bad.
There was a bug in Android 14 where if you held down the power button too long or the side key too long while you were using Google Assistant, it would turn off your screen. And they fixed that in QPR 1, or the December feature drop. And I had forgotten about the bug, but then when I just updated to Android 14 on the Zenfone, it started doing it, and I was like, oh yeah, this thing. And then I'm like, so where does that put manufacturers like that don't get the QPRs, do they have to wait for Android 15 to have that bug addressed, or what? Like, I'm curious to see how that kind of works itself out over time, or doesn't.
So when the QPR becomes stable, the manufacturers can pick up that source code from there that fixes the bug, and they can integrate into their monthly update or whatever they release.
Yeah, because basically, the QPRs, at the last part of it, it becomes the security patch for that month. So if your phone happens to, no matter who the manufacturer is, if they do get that security patch, then it will come along with it. So hopefully that is the case. But some of the other features, of course, are exclusives to Pixel, but basically the fixes of this nature will come to those other ones with the security patch of the month that includes that as the final for that quarter.